What's up, folks? How we doing? Thanks for checking out the video. Hey, in this one we're going to talk a little bit about what happens when your Japanese maples get toasted by the sun and what to do, what happens in that process, and how to recover them, that sort of thing. So we're looking at a handful of Japanese maples. They're on the shady side of my house, and most of these are doing good. They've kind of get a little bit of sun in the morning here, and then no sun from like noon to the afternoon, right? And a few of these, as you can see, have been just absolutely toasted by the sun. They are all in containers, which is important. We're going to talk about that here in just a minute as well too. But as you can see, this one is completely fried. Now, if it gets too dry and too hot, this is what's going to happen. Your leaves are going to dry up, wilt, and then fall off the tree. Not to worry though, because as long as you're getting, let me see these little red nodes? Those are new leaves forming. So as long as you're getting these little red nodes starting to peek out from the branches, you're gonna be okay. What I typically do, this leaf is already kind of breaking out over here. So when one of these potted Japanese maples gets too hot, I immediately move it into the shade to let it recuperate, make sure that it gets adequate water. You don't want to overwater it because that can just compound your issues. Adequate water, it's going to drop all of its foliage, most of its foliage. You're going to kind of, I guess, lose the foliage for the foreseeable future. Some's going to grow back, but it won't have enough time to like grow back before the end of the season, right? But yeah, just put it in the shade. It's going to be okay. These dry leaves are going to start crusting off, and be sure to water regularly. You'll get some leaves back, but it's just going to take some time. But this tree is fine. It's going to be fine next season. It's going to leaf out like nothing ever happened. Now, these trees, when they are in containers, they tend to dry out a lot quicker than if they are in the ground. I have a handful of Japanese maples that are in the ground. Some get a good amount of sun, a lot of sun actually, and you know, they've done better with the heat than the potted Japanese maples. Now, the ones that are in the containers, these containers can dry out a lot quicker than underground does, and that's why you're kind of running into that issue. Is container dries out, the roots dry out, the temperature raises down there, and that can kind of shock the plant, right? So you really have to keep an eye on your container maples and make sure they don't get too hot or get too much sun. Here's another one. It started to kind of fry out. It was in the sun. I moved it over here into the shade, and it looks like just a little bit of the leaves have crusted up, but some of the leaves were saved. So if you notice that it is starting to dry out and your leaves are starting to die and get crusty like this, you do have time to save it, move it into the shade, and that process will slowly stop. Just make sure that you're watering appropriately. So this is my dancing peacock Japanese maple, which has grown quite a bit in the 2 years since I've had it. But this happened to this peacock last year. It got roasted by the sun, and it bounced back this year, no problem. It put on more branches, more foliage, and I've just been careful with this one as far as getting too much sun. So it's over here in a shady spot, and it is doing just fine. So it's not the end of the world if your Japanese maples get fried by the sun. I'm over here in zone 7B, which is North Atlanta, and just make sure that you don't leave it in the sun to die, because it will fry and die, right? Like if the roots get way too hot, because it's in a container, you know, you could still lose your tree. So if you start to see some leaf curling and the leaves drying up and dying like this, and you can and you feel like it's more sun exposure or heat exposure than it is, you know, over watering, because you'll get a lot of the same, I guess, looking effects with over watering. But take it out of the sun, move it into the shade, and just make sure the soil stays moist, not sopping wet. Make sure there's no water in the bottom of your pot, and give it a month or so in the shade, and you should start to see, after the leaves start falling off, these little nodes as the new leaves start to push through the branch. So yeah, that's what I've learned when it comes to dealing with Japanese maples in the heat of the summer here in the South. Thanks for checking out the video. Hope it's been informative. Y'all take care.